Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews here. Okay, so yesterday I was watching the hockey game and an interesting ad popped up in between periods. And if you've been watching any Canadian TV over the past couple weeks, you might have seen this too. It was the first Canadian attack ad that I've seen in a long time. They usually run these kinds of smear campaigns as they lead up to an election, but we don't have an election scheduled for some time. Or do we? Based on the fact that multiple different parties are starting to run political ads, and the fact that we only have a minority government, meaning we could have an election literally at any time, it seems like one might be coming sooner than we might think. Now, I absolutely hate when these political ads are run, no matter what party they're against, because they take advantage of people because they're using people's fear instead of providing them with facts. So today we're going to watch some of these new attack ads together, and we're sort of going to draw back the curtain a little bit and dig a little bit deeper into the claims that are inside of them and determine, is this actually something that's true, or are they stretching the truth here? And by the end of the video, I think you're going to be pretty surprised by some of the information we dig up. But before we get started, if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to tell YouTube, hey, I love seeing this Canadian-focused content and I want more of it. All right, now let's take a look at some of these ads. All right, so this is the first ad I saw that so rudely interrupted me watching the hockey game. And before we watch it, I want to take a second to remind you that my goal here isn't to change your mind about anything. It's to bring you some information so that you can sort of form your own opinions about all of these political issues. I would and plan on making videos just like this for every political party, so we're going to try to keep things as unbiased as possible here. Alright, with that said, this ad's called What Does Erin OToole Fight For? Let's listen in on it.
Erin OToole voted for huge tax breaks to the 1%. Now, OToole and the Conservatives want to give more support to big business and leave you behind at the worst possible time.
You'll notice they try to hit at your emotions almost immediately. They set this sort of dark tone with these dystopic skyscrapers with his face on it, and also with this this dark and almost scary music. They're really trying to bring out the fear here. I mean, look at that, the skyscrapers in the city center. It feels like it's something straight out of Blade Runner. And again, now that I brought it to your mind, listen to the music too. They're really trying to make this feel
Erin
dark.
OToole voted for huge tax breaks to the 1%.
I don't know, I am a believer that music can really change the emotion that is behind these words that are being said. But what I find even more interesting is the claims that they make. They tend to do these sort of broad general statements that are supposed to obviously sound bad to the viewer. Let's work through them and see what they actually mean and actually dig a little deeper and find out what they're referring to. And the first statement like this claims that Conservatives' OToole is saying tax breaks to the 1%, and their source is the House of Commons Hansard 260214. Interesting. I just looked this up because I had no idea what Hansard meant, but that's actually just the formal term for the documents that sort of lay out everything that was said in the House of Commons, sort of like the transcript. And this Hansard was all the way back in 2014. So right away, this is a little bit interesting in that they're going all the way back to 14 to get this information. I already find this a little bit problematic because if you don't notice this year down in the bottom right corner, sort of in the fine print, it kind of makes it seem like that's the Conservatives' platform as of right now, when really it's something back from 2014. But let's see if we can find this actual transcript of the government document so we can find out what they're really talking about. Before we find out what this transcript says, we need to find out what Erin OToole was actually doing at this time. And it seems that in 2012 he had just become an MP for the first time, and by 2014 the then Prime Minister Stephen Harper had named OToole the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade. So it seems that Erin OToole is slowly moving up in the party, but he's not a big significant force as of yet. So I did a little bit of digging and I found the transcript from way back in 2014 that this attack ad is referring to, and when I scrolled through it all I couldn't see any direct mention of OToole in this transcript. But it seems like a lot of the conversation that was going on this specific day back in 2014 was about the Conservative government's new budget that they were bringing in. So I wonder if there's anything inside this budget that is like a tax cut for the 1%. I went to the government's archives and actually found this exact budget from 2014, and when I looked through it, this is the one that I could find that maybe they're referring to. It's called the extension of the mineral exploration tax credit for flow-through share investors. Man, that's a mouthful. After doing a little bit of reading on it, to the best of my understanding, this tax credit is something that's going to save money for companies and individuals who invest in exploratory mining, right? These companies that are looking for new national resources in Canada in order to mine these and export them and potentially create jobs for Canada. But likely the people who are investing in these sorts of businesses are relatively wealthy, so this could be what they're referring to in terms of that 1%. But the plot thickens. Whether or not you think this is actually a good tax credit or not, it's something that is still around today, and Justin Trudeau and the Liberals also extended back in 2018. They proposed to extend this exact same benefit all the way until 2019. So this could be a valid criticism, but it's one that would have to be applied to both of these main leading parties in Canada.
Now, OToole and the Conservatives want to give more support to big business.
All right, that's the next claim. They want to give more support for big business, and their source here is the Toronto Star, and it looks like that's 2020, but it's August 30th. Let's see if we can find the article that they're actually talking about. So I found 3 headlines that were all from right around this time. The first one was OToole between rock and hard place on social conservative issues that won him leadership. Nothing really to do with business here. Another one called The Inside Story of How Erin OToole Won the Conservative Leadership Race, and this one sort of just goes into how he stacked up against his other opponents. And then this one, an opinion piece saying Erin OToole's Conservative Party is stuck in a political wasteland. And again, after reading this one, I didn't find anything directly related to this big business claim. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that this article doesn't actually exist, but it sort of hints at the problem with these sort of short form attack ads. They don't really give you links or any information on how to find the sources that they're talking about, making it almost impossible for the average everyday consumer to fact check. If you can find the article that they're talking about, let me know in the comments. I'd love to take a look at it.
And leave you behind at the worst possible time.
All right, so that's the end of that ad. All in all, the ad is doing its job. It's meant to sort of just put a dark tone around things and make these very broad statements that they think nobody's going to actually look into. Now that we've taken a closer look at it, it sort of is up for debate on whether or not these statements are actually more or less true. Let's take a look at this next one.
These days, you never know what to expect. But for conservative Erin OToole, it's business as usual. As a Bay Street lawyer, he defended the wealthy and big corporations. As an MP, OToole voted for huge tax breaks to the 1% and to cut $36 billion from healthcare. Even now, OToole and the Conservatives want to give more support to big business and leave you behind.
Same ending, okay. Interesting. So there are a couple new claims in there. The first one is this one right here, Bay Street lawyer for big corporations, and the source is Erin OToole's LinkedIn profile. Okay, so here we are on his LinkedIn profile. Let's see if we can find out what they're talking about here. Okay, yes, here, okay, we got to some law positions that he used to be in. Let's zoom in a little bit so that you can see. And it seems that for 2 years, he was counsel at Heenan Blakey LLP, and he was also a legal counsel at Procter & Gamble, so this is another corporate position. So it seems that these statements are true. He was a lawyer and was involved in the legal representation for some big businesses. Whether or not you see that as something that is a negative or a positive in a political leader is up to you. And the next new statement here is that conservative Erin OToole and $36 billion cut to healthcare. Now they're being a little bit facetious with their language here. Like, are they saying this is what he's planning to do? Or are they saying he did that in the past? I think they need a little bit more clarity here. This is my pet peeve with these kinds of ads. And it looks like it's from the same source as before, that Hansard from 260214. That's the same one we looked at. Let's see if we can't find out what this was all about. It's pretty clear this isn't part of his platform as of right now because the source is something from back in 2014. But either way, let's find out what this is all about. I figured since this was the same day, it was talking about the exact same budget, and I believe that it's referring to the Canada Health Transfer, which they outline a new route forward for. What this means is the Canadian federal government every year transfers a whole bunch of money to the different provinces to help with their healthcare systems. Before this new budget, the amount of money that was transferred to the provinces was increasing by 6% each year. But as of this budget, they tried to slow that rate of increase down to 3%. So each year there would still be more money allocated to these health transfers, but less than before. So each and every year there would still be more money flowing out to the provinces for their healthcare systems, but the increase that you'd see each year was a little bit smaller. Instead of increasing 6% each year, now they're proposing that they would want to increase that by 3% each year, which over time, by the end of this proposal, would add up to $36 billion. So calling this a $36 billion cut isn't entirely true, but it's also not entirely false, it seems. Most people, when they hear the word cut, means they're going to take away that money from the system that's already there, whereas this sort of use of the word cut is more talking about they're going to increase it more over time, but just less less than before. But no matter how you feel about this policy change, you might find this interesting. Based on my research, and again, I'm going to link everything down in the description, it seems that this change didn't actually come into effect until the Liberal government was in power, and at that time, they didn't really do much to change that course. So it seems like these attack ads are once again trying to sort of stretch the truth. There is a little bit of a nugget of truth in there, but you're not really going to understand how true or not true it is unless you do this additional digging, which my guess is most Canadians aren't going to do in their free time. But I did see another interesting ad, and it sort of sets itself up like it's going to be an attack ad. It makes you think it's going to be an attack ad, but then it ends up being a positive ad for Erin OToole. Let me show you that one. See, this looks like an attack ad, right? Saying like, "Who do you really know who this person is?"
I'm Erin OToole.
But then it's all positive.
Know me, I'm the leader of Canada's Conservatives. And right now, it's my mission to get our economy back on track. To find out more about me, visit erinotoole.ca. But for now, it's great to meet you. All right, back to work.
Okay, secure the future. So that seems to be his response to all of this. So they must have thought, oh my gosh, there's all these attack ads out there right now. We need to get our own message out there. And in this message, he sort of says, okay, my priority is getting Canadians back to work. But what does that really mean? Let's go to that website that he says for us to visit to see if he actually has any solid plans. So this is the website that he wants people to go to. And I have to say, it's kind of trying to play on people's emotions too, but just on the other side of things, trying to make people sort of feel more sympathetic with him. You'll see here as we scroll down, they're talking about his history in the military, his roots in small town Ontario, in Bowmanville, Ontario, not so small town these days, I live pretty close to there, and his military service, his love story with his wife, all sort of things that are trying to say, hey, this is a Canadian that you can relate to. And the website continues with more information that's like that, sort of trying to get you to get to know Erin OToole. But it's really lacking, this website, in my eyes, because there's no sort of ideas and there's no straight up facts about what he would do if he were in the Prime Minister role. If you want to take a look at the website yourself, again, that's down in the description, but I'm going to withhold my judgment on him until I see what he actually has as a plan moving forward for Canada, rather than these sort of buzzwords like building back Canada and getting back to work. I'd love to see what that actually means in his eyes, not just the statements themselves. But I just think it's so important to sort of critically analyze these sorts of ads, right? So that we don't, as a population here in Canada, get manipulated by ads that are sort of trying to use emotions and fear to get us to think a certain way. I think if we peel back the layers and do our best to get down to the facts of what's actually being talked about, then we can sort of come up with our own opinions for ourselves rather than relying on thinking what the advertisement wants you to think. And again, I want to emphasize, I'm trying to keep this as unbiased as possible. I think that there are pros and cons to most politicians, and if you do a little bit of digging, you can find out what they are and make the decision for yourself. But with that being said, I'm curious what you have to say about all of this. What do you think? Do you think there's going to be an election sooner rather than later, and that they're sort of trying to prep for this upcoming election? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and to like this video. I think there's a shortage of Canadian content like this on the internet, and if you want to keep seeing it, make sure to do those things to help support the channel. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope you found this video at least a little bit interesting, because I will admit it's a little bit of a different topic than what I usually talk about here, but I find it interesting. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.